Good morning, everybody. Buenos dias. How are you feeling this morning on day 218 of the year? Hopefully, you woke up well rested and you're starting the cycle of a new day, a new morning, and you're enjoying some yin time this morning. It feels very yin here in Costa Rica. We had a lot of rain last night and in the morning as well, so everything is very cool and green and slow and a lot of yin energy this morning. So it's a really nice, quiet start to the day for me here. Hopefully, wherever you are in the world, it's the same situation and you're enjoying some nice, quiet yin time in this little 15 minutes, 1% of your day that you've carved out for yourself this morning and every morning now that you're making it a habit and part of your routine. So, on day 218 of the year, our word for today, according to 365 Tao by Deng Ming Dao, is ownership. Something interesting to think about the things you own. What do you actually really own in this lifetime? I'm sure this passage is going to have some nuggets of wisdom for us this morning. So find that nice, quiet, and comfy place where you're not going to be disturbed for the next 15 minutes or so while we read together. Open up your books, grab your journal and something to write with. Be here and now and present, and remember that the best way to do that is to come back to your breath, to slow things down, be here and now, and let's start reading together on day 218 on the subject of ownership. A small boy drives 100 ducks into the lake with a tasseled stick, a mess of excited white. A small boy can command an entire flock of ducks with a slender stick. The ducks go contentedly down to the lake to play in the mud. In the end, of course, they end up as someone's dinner. Wow, okay. They obey the stick because they respond to their conditioning. In truth, they don't need to obey it. They don't need to be someone's meal. As for the boy, he is doing his job, but he does not own the ducks in the ultimate sense. He exercises his power over them and they respond, yet neither realizes that their bond is provisional. Ownership of property is only an artificial construct as well. If we can remember that ownership is something that exists only by definition, then we can give up possessiveness, defensiveness, and greed. What does it matter how much money or land you say you have? You cannot actually own it. Now, this is a very interesting passage, especially as a human, especially at this, point in our lives where, owning your own home, owning your assets, owning these things are something that has been obviously like drummed into us from a very, very young age. That is something that we need to have, especially by a certain time in our lives. But this is really challenging that belief. I'm going to reread some of it. What does it matter how much money or land you say you have? You cannot actually own it. An interesting paradigm to think about. You don't even own your body. Ultimate ownership would mean total control. You would never age. You could make it beautiful as you wanted. You would never suffer from accidents. But the fact is that we are all imprisoned in flesh that ages, decays, becomes diseased, and can be destroyed by some rather minor accidents. You don't own your body. You live in a borrowed shell. Why not seek the truth that goes beyond the body? Wow, this morning's passage is pretty loaded, right? And this one, you do not own your body. You live in a borrowed shell. Have you ever thought about your own body or your own existence in such a way? Okay, this actually doesn't belong to me. And you may have heard people say that you are a spiritual being having a human existence. One of my favorite, I guess you could say, like speakers or motivational speakers was Dr. Wayne Dyer, and he referred to the body as the meat suit. So we've just got this meat suit that we're walking around in, but it's actually our spirit or our soul that makes us who we are. The body it's part of us, but it's not, it's a really hard thing to wrap your head around, especially first thing in the morning. But that's really stuck with me. You don't own your body, you live in a borrowed shell. So it's really challenging what the concept of ownership really is to us. And I invite you to reread this in your own passage, because some of these Some of these pieces here might be more relevant to you than others, particularly if you are a homeowner, perhaps you're a renter, perhaps you don't own a lot of things, perhaps you do own a lot of things. Like, what does like owning material possessions and things actually mean to you? And this passage is really, I think, asking us to challenge ourselves in what the belief is around owning anything, including our own bodies. Which is a very interesting way to think about the process of, being alive and all the things that, as I said earlier, society kind of deems that we need to have or have done by a certain time in our lives. And home ownership is definitely something that most people aspire to in this life. And it's saying here that, even if you say you own something, you never actually do, which, I don't know, it's one of these passages that is very yin and yang and is very Tao. It challenges you to look at both sides of the coin. There's the yin and the yang to everything. So this is an interesting way to think about the concept of ownership, including the material things, the material possessions that are part of our lives, but even our own body, ourself. And when you maybe stop to think, you live in a borrowed shell. Think about this shell or this meat suit that you're currently residing in. If this isn't something you own, what is it that actually animates you and makes you who you are? It's your soul or your spirit, right? It's not the physical body that you actually see. So lots of things to think about this morning. I invite you, as I said, reread it in your own time. Pull out what really resonates with you and sit and meditate on some of these sentences and journal about it. It can be your journaling prompt. Perhaps today you want to move through your home and look at all the things that you own and all of your possessions in the material sense and really challenge your way of thinking as to what ownership truly means for all of those things. You might want to just sit and contemplate your own body today and just realize, like, hey, I am a spiritual being having a physical experience in this body that I don't actually own. As it says here, I'm just living in a borrowed shell. What does that feel like? This is quite a confronting and challenging passage for today. And sometimes it's important to ask yourself some of these questions that perhaps don't make a lot of sense on the surface and perhaps do challenge your status quo or your way of thinking. And just think about however it comes up for you, whether you want to contemplate it in meditation, you want to write about it in your journal, you want to go for a long walk and just kind of think about it. However it shows up for you today, just have a think about this concept of ownership and what it truly means to own the things in your life, including your own physical body. Very interesting way to start the day. So thank you so much for being here for 218 days of the year. It's always lovely to start the day with you, and I will check in with you tomorrow. Bye.